Welcome back to Let's Play Higurashi Himatsubushi. It's a bit of a late upload today because I'm recording literally an hour before I usually upload, so that's a bit of a pisser. I overslept through like the entire day, so that's more than oversleeping, really, wasn't it? Yes. You ever have this happen to you where you're in your dream trying to wake up? It's the most surrealist thing. Like, for example, it's like go straight from like an introduction to let's ramble about like when I was like friggin' sleeping. I was like trying to get up multiple times throughout this dream nightmare. It was weird and it felt real, and I like knocked over my lamp and shit in the dream. But it didn't happen outside of the dream, because when I woke up eventually, everything was still intact. It's so surreal how that works, man. I'm just like, trippy, weird. So yeah, that was confusing. Anyway, word of the day. Let's get straight to the point. Of course, saying that, I probably won't get straight to the point and ramble on more with my track record. Setsubi equipment facilities. What an odd word for the day, that, isn't it? I'll completely forget it, much like all the other words of the days. Shall we get going, Akasaka? Well then, Akasaka-san, later. If you're having any trouble, you can count on me, anytime. Oh, another thing is I'm not recording at the desk today because, one, too much of a pain in the ass to set up, and, well, that's the whole reason, really. Just like too much of a pain in the ass. I've got a new fan that isn't new. It's more or less just like, think of it as a hand-me-down of a sort. It was one of my mother's fans that she wasn't using. Because my fan isn't working anymore. I don't know how many years I have had this fan for, but it just doesn't work anymore. And the one I've got currently is on my desk, because it's a desktop kind of fan, you know. It's not like my other one where it's you just put it on the floor, you know, all that shit. You get the idea. So I can't be asked to move that right now to make room for the laptop so I can record at the desk, essentially. Too lazy. Anyways, and it might even be louder on the recording with a fan, because it feels like it's a bit louder than my other fan. But then again, I don't know. My other fan that doesn't work anymore has been kind of like showing signs of that over the past few days, because it would just randomly stop, then start up and stop. Now I don't have any more money to pay you. Oh, that's. You can just give back a little of what I lost tonight. Ooishi seemingly still not having had his fill of playing around, but without overstaying his welcome, this will be heard into the night. Higurashi, when I cry. Could have had that as the ending to the previous part, really, couldn't I? Just like unseen, moving into the next scene. The informant named Sano-san had me get into his car before he set off. He favored narrow roads and made numerous short left turns. Narrow roads, you absolute madman! Narrow roads are the worst thing ever. Checking if we're being followed. Yeah, you know a lot about this. Checking to see if you were being tailed by making left turns was a rather classic technique. If it was just a single pursuer, you could confirm it that way. But if you were being tailed as a team, this archaic method wouldn't let you shake them. Of course, doing it anyway was better than not. I didn't hear anything from the boss as to who you are, Akasaka. Related to the police. If you're familiar with checking for being tailed, the only other possibility I can think of is something like a private detective. If it's not something I have to say, I'd like to refuse to answer that question. My, ever since we played Mahjong, you seem a lot more mature. I wonder where that hesitant person went from when we first met. I smiled dryly. Looking back now, I had to be a little grateful for being made to play Mahjong. Thanks to that, I was able to relieve some tension. Eventually, Sada-san, confirming that there were no cars following us, slipped outside the city. We were on a pitch-black country road, unable to see anything besides the lights outside. The only things I was able to hear were the hum of the car's air conditioning and the chirping of insects and frogs. So that's what it's been this whole time. No Higurashi, though. I heard from the boss that you want to hear a bit about Himatsubushi village, yeah? Like about the old houses known as the three families who control the place, or that right now it's pretty much the Sonozaki family running things. You know that much already. I'll cut out the introductions. Then if you would, can you confirm or deny if the Nikafuchi Defense Alliance is involved with the kidnapping of Minister Nagai's grandson? Sada-san checked the rearview mirror one more time to confirm there wasn't anybody behind us before speaking. Last night, the Sonozaki main house held a family council. Did you hear about it from the boss? No. If it was a normal meeting, then it would just be all the relatives coming together over a nice cup of tea or something. But a family council held by the main house isn't quite so relaxed. A family council held by the Sonozaki main house. That would be a meeting between those who truly controlled Tenbizawa village. They wouldn't be talking about private family matters. It would be about the village as a whole. About organizing activities against the dam project. Among other things, everything would be decided there. In reality, they were deciding the fate of the village. At the head of the meeting was Oryo Sonozaki, more or less called Empress Sonozaki. As the ultimate decision-maker of the clan, she was to be feared and respected. Let's see the kanji for Emperor, shall we? Empress, I mean. Config. Where's the Empress? You don't have it. Whatever. Actually, I wonder if it's in this dictionary. Empress, are you here? Empress, 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 Empress. Or at least Emperor, you know. Because then I could kind of tell where it'd probably be. Because they probably use two kanji characters, but one difference for each one. God damn it, I should really just put down the microphone when freaking looking for this dictionary. It makes it a pain in the ass to turn. Nope. No emperors in here, I don't think. No. Nope. Of course not. Why would there be? You know this online kanji English dictionary that I've stumbled upon online? I forget the name of the site. It's the most randomest thing. It's got probably most, if not all, kanji characters. It's ridiculous. But some of the examples they give, it's very different to my dictionary. It'd be have words translated where it's just you asshole, and it's just what? Just that could really mean just you fuck or you asshole, shit like that. Just as a translation, it's is it really the equivalent of saying that though? Anyways, ultimate decision maker in the clan, she was to be feared and respected. In very old age, she was often unable to stand on her own, but her words carried enough weight to sway the fate of the village. It seemed that lately she had grown weak, and on days where she wasn't feeling well, remained bedridden. Family councils that occurred while she wasn't feeling well took place with her on the floor. In the middle of a dignified Japanese-style room, still in a futon, only the upper half of her body sitting upright, a stern look on her face, that was Oryo Sonozaki. Sitting next to her was her Mion Sonozaki. Sono-asaki. Typo. She was still young. No, young wasn't quite the right word. She was a girl who remained childish. Her role was to merely sit beside Torio Sonozaki, sometimes responding to her requests. However, she was the only one deemed worthy to succeed Oreo. She had the same hawkish eyes, enough to give pause to anybody who so much as looked at them. Much was expected of her in the future, as granddaughter of the Sonozaki's leader. And also on either side of her sat several other important members of the remaining three families, the Kimiyoshi family and the Furude family. First on the list for the Kimiyoshi family was, of course, the mayor of Hinibizawa village, Kichiro Kimiyoshi, and lined up beside him were several more of his direct relatives. Opposite them sat the other of the three families, the Furude family. The Furude family was only comprised of the family of a Shinto priest, so the only ones sitting there were said priest, his wife, and their daughter Rika. Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, like later on, because like her parents pretty much, are dead by the time the start of the main plot. So like for meetings like that, Rika I think would be the only one that would pretty much attend them, and I think she'd just kind of be like playing around, just I don't know, I can't remember. Rika was doted on by many of the older folks in the village, and it seemed that Oreo was no exception. While the stress from just attending the family council was said to be enough to shorten her lifespan by 3 days, it seemed like Rika was the only one exempt from that. No matter how charged the atmosphere was around her, she paid it no mind, instead humming along as she doodled in a sketchbook. Yeah, that's more or less how it is, isn't it? In fact, the night before, lying on her stomach while humming and doodling, she nonchalantly tucked her legs into Orio's futon like it was a kotatsu. All this was the three families, and all around the room linked relatives of the Sonozaki family. Well, considering how many relatives there seemed to be, that'd be quite a lot. The only ones who were afforded cushions to sit on were direct relatives. Everyone else had to sit on the hard floor. The others were left to sit in the Caesar position and directly on the tatami mats. Caesar position. Let me check what that is, because I think I know what it is, but I want to confirm. Ah, so that's the Caesar position then, is it? I think I saw an image here somewhere that like showed the different typesets over there. Burmese posture to the side. What the hell does that even mean? How bizarre. Man, that must be an uncomfortable sitting kind of posture, for a meeting of intense sorts and shit. I mean, I'm sitting in the cross-legged position, whatever that one is called, as I'm recording this, but it'd be even more uncomfortable to sit in that position. Anyways, on tatami mats, they were sitting like that with Empress Sonozaki enshrined at their center. They were almost like a giant snake coiled around the room. It was decided that everybody would sit in order of their rank. The number of people from the Sonozaki family was overwhelming. The fact that the Sonozaki family held so many seats at a meeting where everything pertaining to the village was decided made determining where the balance of power was held in the three families as clear as day. The number of members in attendance from each of the families directly reflected how much influence they had in ruling Hinibizawa. So I imagine the Furude family barely has any influence on that, considering there are 3 members there. Or was talked about it at that meeting. Sat aside after remaining silent for a while, quietly began to speak. What, are we getting a flashback here? Just like I will tell you, in the form of a flashback. Was not a monetary gift of appreciation just to the media, a little large. Breaking the long moment of silence was the head of the Kimiyoshi. Was a bit large. Of the Kimiyoshi family, Kichiro Kimiyoshi. The only future defense lines wasn't a business. They were nothing more than a private organization pushing for the cancellation of the Himizawa Dam project with no reliable source of income. Fundraising had always been a problem. When they first started operating, they had managed to collect a sizable amount of funds through donations, But as the conflict dragged on, that amount was steadily declining. This isn't an era where you can get what you want from just by throwing rocks. It's very important you don't underestimate the power of the media, and we want to borrow some of that. Wait, who is that? Oh, that's probably Oreo then. This isn't an era where you can't get what you want just by throwing rocks. It's very important you don't underestimate the power of the media. And we want to borrow some of that down the road. I forget what voice I gave to Oreo. The expression of the people related to the Akasaka family were sullen. It's like, oh, we have to pay the most of this, don't we? As the one who suggested that they should borrow that power as the family head, Oreo Sonozaki. Battle wasn't just about force of arms. In this civilized age, there were civilized methods of fighting. Oreo suggested that creating a strategy incorporating the mass media. Oreo's foresight was spot on, and the effects of that plan, while at first unclear, slowly began to manifest. If the physical confrontation of the construction site was meant to delay progress on the dam by even one day, then a propaganda war using the media was aimed at attacking the dam project itself. At first there were those who had doubts about that strategy. There was nobody who called those results into question. But in order to maintain those media ties, a colossal amount of money was required. As long as the amount of funds they had was abundant, things would turn out fine. It couldn't be argued that it was a massive expense, but the results spoke for themselves. But with the conflict continuing to drag on, the circumstances had changed. The head of the Sonozaki family, no, the one who sat at the pinnacle of the Hinabizawa's three families, Oreo, had suggested the idea herself, so it was already untouchable, and continued to be allowed to drain from the budget. Nobody acknowledged that it should be so allowed, but nobody should say anything. That was the price of dealing with the mass media. Oh, okay. What do you think, Oreo-san? The only person who could object to a plan proposed by the head of the Sonozaki household herself was probably Mayor Kiyoshi. Oreo, with a hard-to-define expression on her face, as if she had severed herself from the fetters of mortal emotion, simply listened quietly to Kimiyoshi's words. But really, it was hard to tell if she was quietly listening or didn't even have the intention of listening at all. So who is this Sato that's given the information? Is he a member of one of the three families, or does he simply get his information from bits and pieces from this meeting? Because there's a lot of people that are attending it, obviously. Last year we went through a lot of trouble getting people to wrap their heads around the price hike on the bulletins we were putting out. We convinced them it was just this one time. It just wouldn't do if we had another one this year. Right, Furude-san. The mayor looked to the priest and his wife from the Furude family for information. And they're just like, we don't have portraits, but The priest gave a vague expression, avoiding a prompt response, but his wife gave her answer without a second thought. That's right. The cost of the bulletins are a particularly harsh burden for the poorer families. Everybody is dealing with it for the sake of the village, but it's best we don't increase the prices anymore. The bulletin was, as its name implied, a bulletin published by the Onagafuchi Defense Alliance. It outlined the alliance's activities, ideals, and resolve, but you couldn't deny the contents were rather piecemeal. That the bulletin's main goal wasn't to inform people, but rather was something to sell to businesses and people living in the village or connected to it, and using those sales to collect funds. In other words, it had become something of a tax. Of course, it didn't have to be said that this was one of the main sources of income for the Onagafuchi Defense Alliance. Originally, purchase was supposed to be voluntary, but in Hinabizawa it had suddenly become the opposite. In the neighboring towns as well, it seemed that many businesses were buying copies just to avoid butting heads with the Alliance. The priest whispered to his wife to not say anything unnecessary, but was struck down decidedly with a cold glare. cowering from that glare, the priest shut his mouth. The priest's wife always held the power in their relationship. She wears the pants in that family, ho ho ho! That was because she was the one who carried the fruity bloodline. Oh, I see. The priest merely married into the family. My god, the parallels! Just like, for example, like, what was it? Karano Shoujo 2, which is like, has a village that's based on the same village that Hinamizawa is kind of like got all these images and all and basing it all and shit like that, location-wise. It has the same thing. There's this freaking influential family. There's two influential families, essentially. And one of them has a priest that marries into it as well. Where he's not, like, got the bloodline. It's his wife that has the bloodline. It's like, they've got quite a few things in common with that. They're not, like, identical by any means, but they have some similarities. He was nothing more than somebody who adopted the name just to join the three families. It's kind of like the same on the Sonozaki side, really, isn't it? Like, Mion's mother married some guy, and her grandmother was disapproving of it. And that's probably why Mion, you know, be like, oh, you're going to be the successor instead, I don't know. Can't remember. He should have been able to find a spot fairly high up in the hierarchy of things, but the lack of authority in his voice meant that he had still not gained any favor. He doesn't have a commanding voice. Casting a backwards glance at her rather desperate parents, Rika continued to doodle whimsically without paying them any mind. Signaled by Electromorio, Mion brought her ear close to her grandmother. Something was said to her in a quiet voice. After responding with a couple of questions, with a nod from Morio, Mion looked around the room and conveyed her grandmother's words. There will no freeze on the price increase for the building. Kimeyoshi made a face like he had just bit into something unpleasant, but an expression quickly disappeared like it had never happened at all. But, Mion-chan, I think you already know this, but the cost of the building is by no means easily affordable. It's a burden carried by everybody in Hinamizawa. If we make people carry too much of that burden, it's possible we'll collapse from the inside. And who on the inside would start that collapse? Who? I didn't mean it like that. I'm asking who would be the first to buckle. Before cross-examining by a girl who still had fragments of childishness remaining within her, the word struck in Kameyoshi's throat as he sunk into silence. Mion repeated her question once more, looking around the crowded room. Everybody remained making eye contact to avoid being pierced by her gaze. The words she had spoken were unaudibly said in proxy for Oreo. That's why when Mion spoke them, they carried the same weights. But the look in her eyes was different. Like Oreo's, they had a hawkish gaze strong enough that anybody looking upon them would freeze in their tracks and yield. But that gaze, without question, one that belonged to Mion herself, as Mion would eventually inherit everything from Oreo. The day that when she would stand up as a young and capable leader in her own right would come. Nobody wanted to believe otherwise for even a minute. That's why nobody even thought of Mion as just some sort of little kid. Kimeyoshi-san, nobody will lose their resolve over something like a price hike on the building. Kimeyoshi, while grumbling a little bit, made a gesture as if to say he had no objection. The expenses related to the mass media will continue. If those expenses become too much, we'll have no choice but to continue the price hikes. Mion had rendered her judgment. Everybody bowed their heads, silently listening to her words. In the name of Mion Sonozaki as acting head of the Sonozaki family, I hereby declare that all this shall be effective immediately. There shall be no objections, and any objections shall be removed by force. The formal decree was read aloud, indicating her judgment. There would be no retrial, but there was a certain authority behind those words that even a courthouse couldn't compare to. If she was a judge, she would have banged her gavel, signaling that the matter was settled. Mion pulled out a large bell from inside her clothes and rang it. That's the equivalent of it then. Everybody present could only prostrate themselves before the harsh sound of the bell. Wow, that's a rather old-fashioned family council, isn't it? A young guy like you would probably find it hard to believe. In an antiquated place like this, these types of things have firm roots. It was exactly as Ooishi had said. The old system of the three families had vanished, and now the Sonozaki family was running things by themselves. On top of that, their rule was borderline despotic. Was that the end of the meeting? No, there's more. I'll continue. God damn, you're gonna destroy my battery power! Eventually, after the ringing of the bell ceased, there was a deafening silence. Except for the rain, of course. Within all of that, a lone man shuffled closer to Mion and whispered something in her ear. Mion asked several questions quietly in response. When she was satisfied, she motioned for the man to leave. The man who talked to Mion was a member of a gang that her father was the leader of. That organization had the entire area of Shishibona City under its control, so it was quite well known even here. Of course, this was talking about the criminal underworld, so it's not just like anybody would know. But just showing a patch with the gang symbol on it was enough to resolve any disputes in the neighborhood. Mion's biological father, Oreo, was her daughter's husband. The power of that man's gang was the driving force that controlled the dark underbelly of the Onikafuchi Defense Alliance. And so that man, from his position as the next in line to control the three families, continued to course everybody around him with his unconventional presence. Mion exchanged a look with her father. Was it okay for her to tell what she just heard directly to Oreo? It looked like she was asking him that question. Her father gently but firmly nodded his response. Mion also nodded, then sidled up to Oreo and informed her of something. Eventually Mion finished conveying her message, separated herself from Oreo, and fixed her posture, waiting for Oreo to signal a response. It wasn't often that Oreo showed any emotion. That's why when she started to laugh quietly, a vague sense of uneasiness crept over everybody in the room. That's quite the conundrum, isn't it? Oreo was laughing so happily that Kiyoshi had to hesitantly ask. What is it, Oreo-san? This land is like a motorist, and this business with the dam is like somebody threatening our mother's life, isn't it? Kiyoshi, unable to comprehend the meaning of her words, looked confused. Oreo, with a wide grin on her face, turned towards everybody and addressed them in a clarion voice. The minister behind the dam project is apparently rattled over the kidnapping of his grandson. That makes us even. So, that's absurd. So, it's, Mion's father has, like, the ties to all that, so he's probably the one who, like, I know, probably went through Oreo as well, obviously. But he seemed like the main kind of one behind the underworld stuff, as he pointed out. Information on the kidnapping of Minister Inaga's grandson shouldn't have leaked from anywhere. How did they know? Even we didn't know much about the kidnapping incident. Exactly how did an antiquated household so far away from Tokyo come to know of it? It was a tranquil place, but I couldn't help but have an uneasy feeling about Himizawa village. At some point I had mentally filed this place away as unrelated to the incident at hand. That mental paperwork had just blown away in the winds. How did the Onagafuchi Defense Alliance know about that? So the son, unable to come up with an answer, fell into silence. I'm sorry, please continue. Sure. God damn, how much more can you tell me, man? How much is the battery left? 26%! The Minister of Construction's grandson was kidnapped. Oreo-san, is that true? That major of an incident was nowhere to be seen in the newspaper or on TV. But in Mizawa, there was nothing strange about Oreo knowing something that the rest of the world didn't. Our pain is the pain of losing a mother. I don't think it's completely mixed up for it, but the pain of losing a grandchild. You'll have to bear with that for a bit, don't you think? The last question wasn't addressed to anybody in particular. It was as if she was looking for... conscious... No. You know, I'm gonna have to plug the shitty charger back in. Crappy audio quality. Wait, what? Is this Oreo then? Still, land and the human child are different things. I don't mind hiding him here, but I want no harm before him. The child isn't to blame. Make sure to keep that in mind. So they were the ones behind it. Well, it kind of seemed obvious, really, didn't it? That means that Yonagafuchi Defense Alliance were involved in the kidnapping. I can't say for certain. Why? Even though their leader Oreo was clearly given orders on the treatment of the kidnapped child. Lad, you see, this is what the Sonozaki family always does. Always does? What do you mean by that? Let's say there was a particular problem, one that wasn't exactly favorable for the Sonozaki family. Oreo shows concerns over that particular problem, hearing that somebody who attended the family council would be helpful. As a result, Oreo's wish would be granted. However, neither Oreo or anybody else would know who exactly did it. With this kind of clever little ploy, the Sonozaki family was able to manipulate events even though they had their hands laid out on the table. Then, that means that somebody who was at the family council was the culprit. Or there's the possibility that there was never a culprit in the first place. Oreo herself in that room full of people didn't explicitly say that somebody pulled off the kidnapping. She was just giving her opinion. It was an odd and unpleasant and secretive way of doing things. Were they involved or weren't they? I couldn't see beyond the veil. This much, however, I could say with certainty. This kidnapping was an ironclad secret. No matter how high a position somebody was in, even they wouldn't know about it. If there was somebody who would know about it, they would be connected to public safety. In other words, what of us? The only other options were people connected to the case itself. Including the minister, there would be people affected by the incident, or the people that committed it. In any case, there was no way an old household in a place removed from Tokyo by over 6 hours of highway travel should know about it. Them knowing at all was already strange. My suspicions began to accumulate, like falling snow. That's as much as Oreo said in regards to the kidnapping. Hopefully what you wanted to find out was in there. After this, it's up to you. I don't know what kind of work you're doing, but if you're going up against the Sonozaki family, you'd best prepare yourself. Ooishi might be fearless, but even he's been attacked 2 or 3 times. He hasn't been wearing it lately, but at one point he was wearing a stab-proof vest while off duty. Oh? Thanks for the warning. I'll be careful. You speak pretty well. Are you from Tokyo by any chance? What's your point? Investigators were always close to danger. It was best not to divulge any information on myself. Your job. Could you possibly be somebody from the Metropolitan Public Safety Division? I couldn't remain silent here. It would be the same thing as admitting it. No way! This wasn't accounted for in the money I got from the boss. There's somebody who played at the same table today. I'll give you this one as a freebie. After Oreo talked about the kidnapping, there was one other topic that came up. Another topic that Oreo brought up. And right before he told me this, Sinnerson asked if I was from the Metropolitan Public Safety Division. In other words, the 2 things men caused a chill to run up my spine. So you see, in order to investigate the kidnapping of Mrs. grandson, there's word that there will be an investigator from public safety dispatched all the way from Tokyo. An investigator from public safety? They can't be reckless and make a big deal over the kidnapping, so it seems the Metropolitan Public Safety Division is investigating this on their own. Ain't that grand? What is it?
Rika, who had been drawing the entire time and was completely uninterested in the conversation up until now, looked at Oreo with an interested face as soon as the topic of public safety came up. Did the Metropolitan Police come?
Oh, so Rika-chama knows about the Metropolitan Police Departments. That's very admirable.
Who came?
Is there anybody that knows what kind of guy from public safety came here?
Wait, oh. The aunt's father raised his hand slightly.
I hear that's a nice young piece of fresh meat. Fresh meat? Is it nice and tender? Yeah, it is. Fresh meat.
The aunt's father smiled dryly as he answered Riku's question. Oh, fresh meat is nice and tender. Tender and tasty?
Yeah, tender and tasty.
Rika smiled with interest. Why did Rika suddenly act interested only when it came to this topic? There was a question that apparently nobody had the answer to.
Does Rika-chama know something about this man?
I don't know. After her father... Wait. This is Rika-chama. Oh, no. After all flattened by, Rika buried herself underneath Orio's futon again. But when she buried herself there, Rika no longer started drawing again. Instead, she was making an expression like she was deep in contemplation.
What shall we do about it, Mother?
Beyond swallow posed the question. He had the type of uncouth expression on his face indicated that, given the order, he could snuff the problem out at any time.
He came all the way to Himatsubushi. Let him take it easy for a little while. So you're saying to just let him go around as he pleases?
John's father asked in response. Ryu smiled thinly as she responded.
Leave him alone. But if he starts causing too much mischief, when that happens, don't hold back. I don't enjoy being taken lightly.
Damn. Akasaka's probably shitting himself now. It's like they knew right from the get-go. Mion's father's connections must be insane.
Is what they talked about apparently. It couldn't be that you're that fresh meat from the Metropolitan Police, are you?
It couldn't be. The sensation of cold, bristling fear began to crawl its way up my back. This family council took place last night, in all words, yesterday. Then today, when I was dressed up as a tourist headed towards Himatsubushi, my cover was already blown. When I remember the first person I met when I got to the bus stop, I couldn't breathe. That person at the family council expressed interest in the man being dispatched from the Metropolitan Police, Rika Furude. And then the person who was waiting for me the whole time in the bus shelter, Rika Furude. It was an unthinkable image. No, it was a delusion. When we first met at that bus station, did Rika-chan already know my true identity? Did she know that I was Akasaka, dispatched from the Metropolitan Police Department, and had come to meet me? Then including Mayor Kimiyoshi, every villager that I met, everybody knew, but just pretended not to. Because Oreo had given instruction not to interfere. Thinking about it logically, it didn't seem possible. I met quite a number of people. If there's people that are good at acting, then there's people who are bad at hiding things. If there was that many people, then there should have been somebody among them who knew I was from public safety and couldn't hide their hostility. However, I didn't feel any presence like that. But then, even still, why did Oreo tell them to leave me alone? Was it because if they were careless about it, I would only raise more suspicion? Or was it because they believed a rookie like me wouldn't be able to find anything? Akasaka is a coward. I recall that strange voice, which could only make me believe that Rika-chan was being possessed. That unknown entity, no matter how you looked at it, knew my true identity from the get-go. And then, how did it warn me again? That's right, it warned me to hurry up and go back to Tokyo. Said a realistic worry that the Onikafuchi Defense Alliance had discovered my identity. The absurd worry brought on by the unknown girl stuck with me more. What exactly was that girl? What was the thing I would eventually regret? That mysterious girl, Rika Furude. Let's stop this. Everything I was thinking of right now is merely conjecture. Tomorrow, first thing in the morning, I'll report everything I heard right now to HQ and await further orders. There is no mistaking that the possibility the Ooishi Defense Alliance were related to this case was there. And that the fact that my cover was blown meant I was in a precarious position. But as everybody at HQ is already extremely busy, they might not be able to spare the support. Is that everything? If you want is that everything? If you want, I can drop you off wherever you like. Sorry. In that case, the station where we originally met, please. A rural road where even a street light was rare. I couldn't see anything. I wasn't aware of anything but the asphalt that was lit up by the headlights. Outside of that light, was it simply darkness? Or was there something lurking here, waiting to strike? I think I drew the short straw here. I wanted to go back to Tokyo. For some reason, the voice of the girl who wanted me to go back to Tokyo still lingered in my head.
Higurashi, when they cry. Man, how do opera singers do it? New tips! What's in the box? I haven't seen 7, but that's what made me think of it. Achievement unlocked, Mahjong Prodigy. Well, this part got no Mahjong because that was the previous part. But whatever. Once again, we're saving at the end of a chapter, so just blank screen, more or less there. Next part, tips and shit. This is going to be a late upload because it's already 10 hours on recording, because 42-minute recording. And by the time I freaking finish editing, it'll probably be freaking midnight or some shit. Anyways, I'll see you next time, viewers. See you next time.